You're listening to SM Media, the #1 place for exclusive content.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Scottish Football Show right here in SM Media. I'm Scott, your host again, delighted to be here. Wilson's here again. Wilson, Happy New Year. Very good
stuff. Well, it's not, take the happy bit out of that, Scott. It's just New Year for me.
Shankers, how are we feeling?
Amazing. Top of the run.
Brilliant. We're joined by a very special guest. It's a big coup for us to get him on, but we're delighted to welcome Mick Kennedy, the manager of Darvel. Pleasure to have you on, Mick. Thanks for joining us.
No worries, thanks for inviting me on. I appreciate it.
No worries. How are you doing? You good?
Aye, all good, mate. Everything's good, aye. Just disappointed in the football this weekend, but other than that, aye, pretty good to be fair, aye.
Brilliant. We'll go on to, we'll touch on things later on the show, but we'll quickly run through the results before we touch on a few talking points. Hibs 0, Livingston 3. David Martindale gets his 7th win in a row, going to Easter Road, who are now 3 defeats in a row. Hamilton got a big result against Motherwell, 3-0. Stephen Robinson obviously resigned during the week. We'll touch on that in a minute. Aberdeen and the D United a 0-0 draw. Ross County won, St Johnstone won, and Kilmarnock lost a late equaliser to St Mirren in a 1-1 draw. But where else do we start apart from the big game over the weekend? Rangers 1, Celtic 0. Mac, what was your overall thoughts on the game?
Probably the same as everybody else's thoughts, to be fair. I think it was Celtic sort of dominated the first 45 minutes. To be honest with you, I would say controlled it. I wouldn't even say dominated it. I know, listen, McGregor pulls off a fantastic save for Griffiths outside the box. But even though Celtic had loads of the ball, I can't really recall any clear-cut opportunities. Edwards probably got one in the first half inside the box. I would expect Allen to save that as well. And other than that, for all they had great control of the game, I can't remember very many last-ditch tackles, particularly the Rangers' defence. Always looked solid and compact. And I think as the game developed, you always felt as if that's the way it was going to end. Celtic Rangers came out second half, probably a bit more compact, got a bit tighter and closer at the park. And then obviously the second half was quite pivotal in terms of how the rest of the game developed, to be fair. But I was actually surprised how well Celtic dominated the ball, to be honest with you, because I think that's probably been Rangers' strength the last few forms. But listen, as with it is, I don't think yesterday's result would lose Celtic the league. I think it was probably a lot of stuff that happened prior to that.
Definitely. Obviously, me, Wilson and Shankers spoke about the game as it was happening on our group chat, but I'm just going to let Wilson loose on his thoughts on the game because there's a lot to get through here.
Well, again, I know Mick's a big fan of mine and listens to the show every week. And he will have heard me say last week that this game of football will come down to a refereeing decision. And 100% spot on, the operation to stop 10 in a row has finally concluded. Again, Bobby Madden and his team of merry men have basically wasted every Scottish football fan's next 5 months of anything enjoyable in Scottish football with his reckless, almost Mr. Magoo-like display yesterday. Saturday at Ibrox. Absolutely nothing short of shambolic, to be honest. And that's why regular viewers will see that I've not worn my glasses today. I've sent them up by courier to Bobby so he doesn't get his next game. Because it was nothing short of embarrassing, to be honest. And it starts early doors as well. I mean, again, regular listeners to the show know how much a massive fan I am of Alan McGregor. I've always said this. And he makes the 2 saves in the first couple of minutes. Now, how the linesman can give Edward offside, and that just set the tone. He's about 3 yards onside and comes behind the defender. Now, McGregor makes the save. So there's no goal anyway. But from then on in, you just knew Madden's performance was just going to get even worse. You have, again, now I only thought it was a yellow card. To be honest, you have Morelos' tackle on Frimpong. Okay? Mm-hmm. Goes completely unpunished. The melee at the end, you know, when he's protecting Morelos from having to, red card a Rangers player. They send it off thinking that, Christopher Ire, who was probably the fastest player on the pitch yesterday, can't cover that ground. Now, I know Morelos is a good goal scorer, but again, and he's scored lots of goals, but not even he can score for 37 yards at 110-degree angle. By the time he takes his first touch, Christopher Ayer is within about 3 yards of him. So, but Madden couldn't wait, following instructions from his superiors to end the 10 in a row. And however, that's just on the game. That's just on the game. But again, as I've said previously, I thought from the body language and the attitude from the first Old Firm game that Celtic had absolutely no chance of coming back. And yesterday's absolutely just confirmed that. And to be fair, again, that's what winning leagues is about. Not playing well and taking 3 points. That's it. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, we'll start. I've took some notes in the game. I just want to start off with the Celtic. Obviously, started really, really quick out the gates. The diamond, we could see straight away the diamond was working. Shankers, Rangers didn't have an answer for Celtic's pressure early on, and it showed because Rangers, every time Rangers got the ball, they were losing the ball and it was just coming straight down. Obviously, the chances with Griffiths. Obviously, again, McGregor's save. I think that's his Andy Gordon moment, as we've heard so often over the past 24 hours. But what did you kind of think of the first kind of 45 minutes? Were you surprised at how Celtic, obviously you spoke about how the diamond was a big thing for you. You didn't think it was going to work against Rangers. It did work though, to be fair, the first half.
You're spot on. I thought before the game, the way they set up in the two previous games at the diamond, just to afford Rangers a space for full-backs to push forward, I thought it could be criminal. It could kill them almost, but it worked perfectly. It was as if Edward and Griffiths were splitting and kind of stopping the ball going to full-backs, and then Turnbull was kind of squeezing up to kind of split the centre halves, and the Celtic's positioning out when they didn't have the ball, like the shape that the team took up, like totally helped them in the first half. And the Rangers were probably the happier going in at half time at 0-0 because Celtic had a lot of possession, as Mick said, no too many chances, but they were probably just disappointed not to go in a goal up at half time. That's probably the only thing that was missing for the performance in the first half. And I thought Rangers couldn't get any worse, to be honest. So the only thing that they could do was get better. And as Mick said, the longer the game went on, you almost seen that coming because Celtic, for all the ball and that they had, they weren't making anything happen with it in the final third, and you could almost see that coming, and it was a bit of a sickener. I think the red card is a red card, no, just it's not a biased point of view. I think Morelos, when he goes into the box, he goes into the box, and Madden's obviously thought he's going into the box with a chance. You're no guaranteed to score, but it's an opportunity to have a shot on goal and possibly score. So he's denying that. I'm not saying I wouldn't have got back and covered in, but I think they have to look at what could have happened, and he's going into the box with a chance at a shot on goal, and I think it was the right decision. And after the red card, I kind of thought Rangers would go on and win the game.
Mick, what did you think of the red card? Do you think it was a red card?
I think it was. I think the problem is, by the time play develops after the Bosch's whistle, probably Ayer's made up about 10-5 yards and grounded by that point where he's already on the deck. So it looks like he's probably in. He probably would have played, stopped at the exact point he brings him down. I think the problem Ayer's got is his starting position is probably better in the first instance in terms of his position in the shape Celtic in. Then I think there's probably a better chance of getting across. But he's far too high and he's far too wide. But listen, I think when you make decisions like that from a player perspective and beat on like rolls them, then makes a decision to bring them down, then I think you're giving up people an opportunity to make a decision. I know it's hard when you're in the crux of the game, and listen, sometimes you sort of heart overrules your head and you make rash decisions. I think it's a rash. If you let them go, Morelos goes, puts the ball in the back of the net, then you've got an opportunity to cover. But I think the minute you go down to 10 men, then I think obviously in games of that magnitude, then I think you're really up against it, and I think that's the way the game sort of developed for that point onwards.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I think definitely the red card changed
the game. And I'm
a
Celtic fan, by the way.
Well, that's taking one of my questions for later.
The red card changes the game, and we'll come on to, obviously, after that, Celtic need to change up. They bring on Shane Duffy and Mohamed El Yunusi, and with Shankers has became a bit of a celebrity with a video he's put up on Twitter with us. Tell us about that.
See, to be fair, it was my uncle that put it onto the group chat. I think it was on Rangers TV, and the woman's just kind of sniggered when she sees about Duffy coming on. It was just a bit of a laugh, but it's kind of doing my nothing, to be honest. My phone's no stop vibrating all night. I'm due to delete it. See on the subs. See, he takes Griffiths off. He brings Duffy on before the goal. He's just went with the one up just to, I think it was 4-4-1 to try and sort up. See, after that, when Rangers went down 1-0, I didn't get bringing on Brown and El Hamid. Like,
Nah.
I just like to go and try and win the game. Like, it was too like kind of defensive minded players. I didn't get that at all. To be honest, it was surely you would rather go and lose another 2 goals than have a go than just kind of sit tight and try no lose anywhere. But no actually having a go at the game. I was surprised at that. They never kind of went gung ho and threw another couple of attacking players.
Yeah. The reason I want to touch on Shane Duffy quickly is I just want to ask Wilson. Wilson, if you're talking about Bobby Madden having a game like that, does he send off Shane Duffy? Because to me, that's a shocking challenge.
No, that for me is a run of, a run of the mill tackle. The same one that Davis done on Aya. They're just tackles that happen in a game that, you know, kind of get the crowd, etc. going. You know, I don't think that's a yellow card for me. A yellow card.
To be fair, the crowd were buzzing after that tackle.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's one, you know. And it's a wee bit kind of, as I go on about in this show, the badge kissers. You know, Duffy's just went, I'll just take a body out so the Celtic fans got off my case.
It was like Jordan Jones, remember the one a couple of years ago? Jones done it at Ibrox. It was just so the fans would love him and all that, and it's basically killed his Rangers career. I
mean, I don't get me wrong. I heard Neil Lennon shout at the 4th official to send him off. But that's just the way it was. And it was the same. I mean, see, to be honest, obviously I didn't notice at the time, but it was the same as Morales, you know, early doors. That for me, that's your referee, right, Alfredo? That's you. Got your one. I'll give you that one. It's early in the game, you know. And usually what you would find a referee would do is, because Duffy's was that late in the game, like if Duffy had done that in the first 5 minutes, you know, there'd been a booking as well. But later in the game, you think the Celtic were kind of trying to chase it a wee bit. Then, you know, that possibly could have been a sending off. Not for me.
But the goal comes through a Rangers set piece. Cal McGregor, the unfortunate one that kind of puts it into his own net. Do you think after that, I'll go and give this to Mick, do you think after that Rangers just kind of asserted their dominance in the game and Celtic kind of struggled to get away back?
I think Mark made the point. I think when Celtic makes these substitutions, I understand the rationale of bringing Duffy on to give a structured back four, but I think the substitutions after that, I think the whole mindset of the team even changed at that point as well from a player perspective. You bring on Brown and it's a very, and El Mohamed, it's very defensive based decisions, and I think then the mindset changed within the team and they would become very deep. Then Rangers just managed the game out at that point, where I think it was a must-win game for Celtic yesterday, I thought, and at that point I think you need to go for the game. Listen, if you go to take with a draw, a player centre-half, then you come away with some kind of merit in the game, but I think at that point you need to be a bit gun-ho. I sit and watched it in the house, probably the same as Mark was thinking, I'm thinking, what the hell's he doing here? 2 very defensive-based decisions, and I think then Rangers just managed the game. Listen, Rangers have been defensively excellent all season. It's been the foundations that's got them to the point of where they are just now, and I think against 10 men, I was never confident Celtic were going to get back in the game at that point.
Again, we'll touch on a few things. Well, I just want to mention Morelos quickly. Like, we were talking on the show last week about how we thought this might be Morelos' game, and again, he does nothing for me in this game. There's folks saying to me he had a good game. I thought when Atten come on, it showed what Rangers needed in that game. I thought Atten kind of linked the ball up well, whereas Morelos was just, it was like a spare man. I don't think Rangers front three had a good game anyway, but Morelos for me again just doesn't show it in this game.
Right, but look, and this is fair, and as much as it grates me because I'm not his biggest fan, this is where you think, and you put on the chat yesterday, Scott, about Gerrard substituting Roof at half-time. I don't think you were impressed with that substitution.
Yeah.
Now, yes, possibly this season or the last few games, you're maybe thinking Roof's going to be one that maybe pops up with a goal, but Morelos is going to be the one that runs that channel. Now, it's probably 2 or 3 yards from where he gets Simonovic sent off. this last season or the season before. So that, and Rangers, Gerrard's reacted, you know, to what, I mean, Kent, Morales and Roof couldn't get the ball in the first half.
I think to be fair, Roof had an injury.
To run the channels. And I don't think Roof's going to do that. I think Morelos and the likes of Kent will try and do that. And as I say, Morelos is spun him now. Again, if I'm Steven Gerrard, I'm thinking, I'm needing a goal, you know, and I need to make a sub to get Hadji on the park. I would have kept Morales on. You know, I know his record against Celtic, blah, 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 but in a few games he's managed to get a Celtic player sent off. You know, how he never scored in the cup final a few years ago. He knows how to certainly make the Celtic defence uneasy, create, you know, that wee half yard for himself, which he does successfully. So, as I say, that's why I think Morales stayed on the park. He didn't score, but he's got Celtic down to 10 men. You know, he's his wee moment later on with Scott Brown and some of the players, which you're always going to expect. But again, it's handbags, it's nothing. So unfortunately, I agree with Steven Gerrard.
I just think though, when Morelos get booked, it was just even Ali McCoy said. I thought Ali McCoy explained it perfect. He was like, he can't trust him. He can't trust Morelos after the booking. And
he literally get took off maybe 30 seconds after they get booked.
But you have to be able to manage players like that. Now, Mick will be able to talk more about that. Because he's a lot older than me, managed better players. I'm quite sure there's players at all levels that Mick's managed that get treated totally different from the majority of the boys in the squad, and I think that's obviously what Gerrard does with Morales.
So what do we think now, like Shankers, how big a win was that, and do you think that is game, set, match for the league title?
I don't want to turn around and go, that's it, done, because, you know, I want to, but I don't. Over the years, the last couple of years, especially at this time of the season, you know, it is easy. Say you go and draw one, and then the momentum can totally change. And the Rangers' fixtures in the month of January, I mean, Pittodrie, Easter Road, and Firth Park, they go there. If they win the 3 games, you turn around and go, aye, the team is certainly got the mentality to win it. But I would wait till the month of January is over before anything gets said.
Yeah, definitely. Mac, where does Celtic go for here?
I think there's a bit of rebuild to be done, to be fair. I think it's astonishing to think probably 8 years ago, or 9 years ago, that at this point Rangers were in liquidation. And you think of the stand and start Celtic had on them that in such a short space of time, that they're now in a stronger position in them. Certainly on the park, I wouldn't say financially half it, but certainly on the park just now, doing it good recruitment, probably really, really good coaching, to be fair. I know people who are running about the club and stuff like that speak so high of the boy Michael Beale, which there he's might have been an exceptional coach. Made a significant contribution to developing some of the players that were there, and they've got a real good culture and ethos about the club just now. So I think Celtic then need to go again. I think when you manage to get a manager in at the standard of Brendan Rodgers, and you then set the foundations to run a club like that, when he had such a say in how the club developed, no disrespect to him when, but when you then go back to that level of manager and coach, then I think there's a total shift in the culture at the club, and I think that's clearly evident. I think there needs to be a total rethink it, take the club forward. I would certainly write the season off, and I'd be looking to bring somebody in new to rebuild for the summer.
Definitely. Wilson, I'll ask you the same question. Where does Celtic go for here?
Well, this is where I'm going to put the glasses on. This is what I was going through last night. Right now, I said at the start, right, that the season is over. It's up there. There's more chance of me captaining Darvel to the Champions League than Celtic winning that league. And I know I've been on trial with Mick a few, but we'll know what about that now. I think this is now, this month is turning into a monster for Celtic, because I think, you know, come the end of the season, right, I would think the likes of Ayer, McGregor, Rogic and Charm, Christie and Edouard will be bought, sold, moved on. Duffy will be away. I don't think they'll want to spend the money in El Yunusi. And I think Brown and Griffiths have ran their race at Celtic. I don't think they'll be there either. I think Brown will retire gracefully, and that's fine. Right? Then what you've got to look at is the standard of player that Celtic have. Now, Barkas, Bain, Hazard, obviously Neil Lennon doesn't trust any one of the three because he rotates his goalie. Okay? Then you've got the likes of, I don't even want to mention his name, Laxalt, who Laxalt is giving Frimpong a run for his money and being the worst player in the Premiership. A right run for his money because you've got a left
Multiple
back.
goalies threw his name in the hat.
You've got a left back and a right back in 30 yards of space that don't cross the ball or can't cross the ball. And then you've got the squad players like Ralston, Welsh, Johnson, Ajeti, Klamala, no good enough. None of the guys I've just mentioned are good enough to play for Celtic. I'm sorry. Now, they might all be millionaires, but they're not good enough, right? So that leaves me with the guys that I know. You've got Greg Taylor, Sorrow, Julian, Turnbull and Forrest from that squad of 25 that will be there next year, right? So you're now looking, is Neil Lennon going to be trusted with any more money after the whole Barkas and Ajeti money? Probably not.
Does that not suggest, though, that there needs to be a change at the whole club?
A whole change in structure. Now, I'm very much old school, not as old as Mick, certainly, but Mick will remember the Celtic scout was John Park. Was that his name, John?
Yeah, John Park, yeah.
John Park was responsible for your Van Dijks and your Forsters and getting all these guys in. Then all of a sudden, did they want more money or something? Was he not trusted or whatever and he's away? And since then, you maybe pull one decent one out of the hat, but the signings in the last couple of seasons have been absolutely horrific. And as I say, if Neil Lennon doesn't trust some of these players, hence his rotation all the time, then I honestly feel this is a massive problem, not for the club, because there's so many players there that are just nowhere near it, And I think the biggest problem this year is, and again, you can blame the fans and whatever, blah, 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 but I don't think even the likes of Aberdeen have stepped up to any sort of level where they're going to beat Celtic or Rangers. Now, I've said on this show that I can easily see Rangers going the full season unbeaten in the league. I can easily see that because now they've got 2 games left, and that's against Celtic. One at Parkhead and then one back at Ibrox. The rest, and Mark mentioned there about the tough month of January. Tough going to Pittodrie when they can't beat Dundee United. Tough going to Motherwell when they're getting zipped by 3-0 by Hamilton. And tough going to Easter Road where Livingston won. Do me a favour.
It sounded like Roy Keane there.
Absolutely. But what I'm saying is, and going back to my point at the start, this is where I think Celtic need to react now. Do you know what I mean? I think they need to say, Lennon, this season's ran its race. You need to go and get somebody in now. Again, there'll be a million days brandished about, right? But you've got to get somebody in. Let's just say, I hope it is, but anyway, let's just say it's Eddie Howe. And Eddie Howe maybe goes and gets 1 or 2 signings from England, beds them in, then come the summer he gets 5, 6, 7 in, and give the guy, the new manager, a shot at it. Because all that's going to happen this year is, even if they turn around tomorrow and say, right, fans can get back in, do you think 60,000 folk are going to turn up at Parkhead?
No chance.
No, but my point is with the whole thing, do you know, if you're a Celtic fan yesterday, do you not take a bit of kind of confidence for the game of how they played?
No.
I think they've got to be fair. The obvious thing is it's worrying about playing and controlling the game that well, but no taking anything from it.
That was my point. Sorry to interrupt, but how many times did Rangers go to Parkhead and not play well and get a result, and Celtic used to play them off the park? That isn't kind of new.
It's just I know, but just because of previous games in the past months about how every day was going about how dire performances were, no identity or whatever. I think he's this formation is obviously the one he's kind of he's tried so many 3 at the back, 5 midfield, 3-5-2, whatever, and now he's kind of got the formation and the kind of just their team that he wants to play in. And yesterday, as I said, the first half they're unlucky not to come in. They're unlucky to come in with a draw at half time. But see, Lennon they've got to see positives for that game somehow. I know the only worrying thing is they didn't score, but for performance, controlling the game, the way the team was set up, everything, the only thing that was missing was the result. That's the only worrying thing that
That's
they're going to take away from the game.
Because I thought during the game as well.
Been watching a different game.
But did you not think, though, you touched on Callum McGregor last week. Do you not think when the McGregor, Christian Turnbull...
Scotland's ever produced.
Right, but they three, I thought they three were excellent because kind of Sorrow just allowed McGregor to flourish. Right. And he sat there and let the other three play, and you could see it was a different Celtic team.
Right, so let's go back, right, to the referee's howler. Sorrow's committed 4 fouls and not been booked.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. David Turnbull, I think, has been sitting next to Ryan Christie in the dressing room where it comes to a big game, shit his pants, excuse my French, because, you know, Christie has been phenomenal for Scotland. He's been a phenomenal Celtic player. But again, has he ever laid a glove in an Old Firm game? No. Turnbull, I felt, suffered from that yesterday. You know, he got into some good positions, but nothing from there. I think he's a good player. You know, don't get me wrong, he's a young boy. As I say, Sorrow did what a fit Scott Brown, you know, used to do as well, break up the play, tackles. And those 2 fullbacks, oh my goodness. Did you see Frimpong try to cross it on the byline?
I know. I seen somebody posting there's a Frimpong what to use a size 40 cross.
Right, and then look at the. I don't know if you've seen the goal. What's Laxalt doing? It was the one time they hadn't shuttled across, and McGregor should have pressed Tavernier and pushed Laxalt up, and Laxalt was just caught no man's land, and it gave Beaton and Ayer far too much. They just couldn't go over in time, and that's how the sending off came about. And as I say, they get into great positions, and their crossing is ridiculous. And then again, and you're saying, Mark, take the positives, they play well, etc. Again, if the, you know, everyone thinks that French Erie's a great player, and he is a great player, and they're talking 20 mil, whatever, and Lee Griffiths is a now goal scorer. They didn't score. So I don't see any positives whatsoever from the game.
Oh, I did say the only worrying thing is for them that it didn't score. Like, performance and all that, keeping the ball, shape, no conceding, but like defensively. No, but I'm just saying, we know they've no won, but I'm just saying you have to take positives. They have to take positives. There's a fan on Super Scoreboard want to give Lennon a new contract.
Right. Did you see the League Cup final when Julian scored the winner? Did you get any positives from that day? No, you didn't, because you get beat.
Can't remember.
But what, like, obviously now Celtic, Rangers go to Pittodrie and Celtic play Hibs after their trip to Dubai. Mick, if Darvel were 19 points behind in the league, do you take them for warm weather training and think that improves them? What's that all about? How's that allowed to happen?
To be fair, if I took Darvel to Dubai, I'd get more criticism in Celtic. I certainly, I think if you're 19 points behind your nearest rivals, you're at the League, Europa, the League Cup. I certainly don't think 4 days in Dubai is going to make any difference, if I'm being honest with you. I think it's a mad decision to win away at this time. I don't see what the benefit it is, to be fair. But obviously they see there's some kind of benefit somewhere within Celtic Park. I just don't see what it is. But I agree with Mark. That's the younger Mark Wilson than me. I don't think you can take many positives for the game on yesterday. As I say, for us, Celtic dominated the ball at times. If you think that if Tavernier and Barisic get into the positions that Laxalt and Frimpong get to in the first half of 45 minutes, and Celtic would have been 4 or 5 done.
Yeah.
But the reality is you've got 2 fullbacks, you've got no end product whatsoever, which is astonishing. If Frimpong had Mark Shanklin's right fit, he'd be playing the Premiership. You know what I mean? He's more up and down, but the reality is I can't understand how you can train 5 days a week to the age of 16 and in your early 20s and can't cross a ball 15, 20 yards. I just find it absolutely astonishing. And you know something? He doesn't even trust his cell. So many times into great positions and he comes back out on his cell because he doesn't trust his cell to put the ball in an area. And you're not asking him to pick somebody out or put it in some, you're just asking him to hit an area. And he doesn't trust it. He comes out on his all the time. First couple of minutes, he'll put in a couple of balls with no quality. Then he'll start. He comes out on his cell, isolates a full back, gets by him. Instead of putting in, he comes checks back out in his cell. But I don't see many positives for it at all. To be honest with you, I think you need to take everything into context and not just yesterday's game in isolation.
Definitely. We'll just finish up. We'll touch on another couple of games to mention. Wilson, Kilmarnock drew 1 each with St Mirren Lake. St Mirren equaliser. What do you think? You think that was Kilmarnock feel hard done by with that?
I think it was. I think even Jim Goodwin came out in the press and said that it was a point gain for them. He was quite honest in his assessment. Kilmarnock were in complete control, especially for the majority of the first half. Second half got a wee bit thingy, and I saw a lot of fans on social media giving it, should I push for a second or a third? But they were so comfortable, they didn't, feel the need to push for a second or a third. I know you maybe always should, but and then the goal is, I just don't know what he's thinking.
What is he doing, man? What is he doing?
Obviously, to sit here in hindsight, but I don't get how any goalie could do that. All he's got to do is extend his arms. And he's still holding the ball with his elbows bent down and extending his arms. Now, again, as Mark, obviously the junior level, any striker rushing into that would just go and, go and give him a wee bump or something, but even the St Mirren players couldn't believe it. And the reason I thought that's a goal was straight away, I think it was Handstruck, the fullback, just turned around and just closed his eyes.
What's happening?
And he knows it's in now. Again, for a referee, I don't know if I have the technology, but the referee's he's going in the word of his linesman, who's probably got a better angle. But it was a crazy mistake. But again, it's it was no points out of 15 or 18. It's now 4 points out of 6. Mm-hmm. And I think we've got Hamilton Hibs, to come. So as I say, we are where we are. But as I say, you never get beat. I think that's always, you don't get beat. So that's I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Shankers, Motherwell, Stephen Robinson parted ways over the week. Were you surprised at that? And how bad was the result yesterday?
I'm no surprised one bit, because I think he's seen that goalie in training and thought, I need to just jump ship here. Did you see that? Did any of you see that? Yeah. See when I thought about the Kelly goalie's mistake, and you says about the Motherwell one, I says I'll go and have a look at this. Oh my God! Did somebody not tell him that he can use his hands? Jesus Christ, man! I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Did you see the defender for the third goal? And he swung his leg and just missed the ball.
No, I can't really remember that. Unbelievable. I don't know. It's a weird one with Stephen Robinson. It's obviously he's resigned. He's not been sacked. It's a strange one. Obviously, they find themselves in a bad position now, but he's got the squad there that should be doing better than that. But I'm not sure. It's a weird one with managers like that. He's done so well, and I don't know if he had the chance to go elsewhere. But surely when at that point you need to go, because with a team like Motherwell, you're not like when you finish in Europe or whatever. Like it's so tough to do that consistently. I know Aberdeen's done it for years, but for managers like that, I just find it hard when they're doing so well how they don't go elsewhere when they get a chance. Because now look at him, they're sitting 11th or whatever in the league, and he's had to resign, and it's going to be hard. I'm sure he'll not be out of a job for a long time, but it no like a team in the Championship or whatever, I don't think he'll take him, whereas they would have maybe I took a punt at him when he was doing so well at Motherwell. But it's a strange one how he's just resigned. I don't know. Maybe he's got some in the pipeline and he's just left, and it's a good moment for him. But I don't know. It's a good job. It's a good job for someone. I don't know who they'll be looking at, but
I think Keith Lasley's maybe got a claim to that job off, but his first result wasn't great. What do you think, Wilson?
No, I don't think Keith Lasley will get it. No, again, and as I say, I always, when these managers get it, and it's an absolute pet hate of mine at any level, say, right, okay, we'll offer you the job, but you need to keep Keith Lasley and Maurice Ross as your assistants. Now, I know, these kind of times there's not a lot of money kicking about at a lot of levels of football. You want to pick your own team. It wasn't like Mick goes to Darvel, you've got to keep, the two guys that were there for 10 years before you. You want to be, go and pick your own management team, guys you can trust. And as I say, it's a wee bit, I suppose, like Lennon and John Kennedy. I mean, how wasn't Gary Parker or Yalby or whoever he's been in with before? I don't get that. I really don't get that. Now, a lot of Kelly fans are on Alex Dyer's back. You know, Keith Lasley might be a fantastic number 2, but he might not be a manager. You know, and a lot of the Kelly fans have that criticism of Alex Dyer. You know, he's a great coach and a great guy, good link to the dressing room, but he's not a manager. But then another side of the coin is, did Keith Lasley just need a chance? You know, I know Maurice Ross is highly thought of, maybe not his social media pages, but I know as a person he's highly thought of, in his coaching and all that. So that for me would strike slightly kind of biscuit tin, to be honest, if they went with Lasley and Ross. I think maybe a clear it, because there's a decent squad there.
Yeah,
a decent
definitely.
squad. They've got Stephen O'Donnell, who's best right back in Scotland, you know. So
After Wally Lyle.
One manager who deserves a lot of credit is David Martindale, Mac. 7 wins in a row since he went in at Livingston. How impressed you've been with the job he's done there?
He's done a great job. I've listened to him speak a couple of times. Seems a nice, honest guy. It seems as if he's quite a colourful background, to be fair to him, that he spoke quite openly about. He seems as if he's done great to turn his life around. The guy, he's obviously had a positive impact within the club. The players have responded to it. Listen, sometimes when a new manager comes in or somebody takes it, you get a wee natural bounce, to be fair, but the number of games they've done well in now would say they're probably through that early period. So no, I think he's done a fantastic job. I think he's done really well. And the other guys as well, I think obviously Robert had done a fantastic job at Motherwell as well, but as Shanker said, it's hard at that level to continue to sustain success when you're putting at that level and working in these sort of budgets. But as I say, the boy at Livingston's done a fantastic job.
Move on to our special guest, Mac Kennedy. Mac, thanks very much for joining us. Just want to ask you, first of all, how's the season been so far with Darvel? Obviously been the craziest season we'll ever remember, but what's it been like for you, your perspective?
It's actually been quite strange, to be honest with you. Probably more so on Saturdays in terms of preparation for games, not having access to changing rooms. It's been difficult, to be honest with you. I think the first couple of games, we probably get the timings wrong, boys, yeah, too early. Probably more so in terms of how we prepared last season and standing about too much. And it's just a natural build-up of how I'd normally do things, and a Saturday's been really challenging. It took us 3 or 4 games to find some kind of routine again that I felt comfortable with and the players felt comfortable with. And listen, I think that's probably been the same for every manager, to be honest with you. And I think obviously not having access to the fans being there, it's been quite strange. It's just lacked a wee bit of intensity at times, to be honest with you. I think we've probably got through that now. We're starting to look a wee bit more like ourselves now, but it's been difficult in the early stages, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. And talk about it as well, about your playing career as well, because you don't really hear the fact that you were captain of the Scottish amateur team. Did you feel you done well as a player?
I played a reasonable career when I was younger, when about senior clubs and stuff like that, and then had moved into. I played 21s football. I was on the verge of signing with Clydebank actually when they actually went bankrupt. Then took a break for a wee bit. Had a few opportunities to play junior and didn't particularly fancy that level. Just went and played amateur because it suited me with my mates and stuff like that. Then had a reasonable successful career at that level. Probably I reached 7 Scottish Cup finals. I don't know, won the league probably 12 times, about 16 years or something like that. Captain Scotland. Reasonable success. Well, I enjoyed it fundamentally, which is the most important thing, I suppose. But it was enjoyable.
Brilliant. And when you obviously, why did you kind of decide to get involved with Darvel? What was the reason Darvel was the club you kind of chose to get involved in?
I asked myself that many times, Scott, since I've went there. I think, to be honest, I had a reasonable, successful career at managing Cove after I stopped playing there in about a 4-year period. Yeah. And during that time, I had 3 or 4 offers to maybe step up, as you would say, into junior. I did maybe a couple of conversations at lower league level. And it just didn't, the clubs I spoke to at that point didn't feel particularly right. And I enjoyed actually where I was. I felt quite comfortable. I've always done football. I've been part of it simply because it was something that I enjoyed doing. It was a good break away from my private life and stuff like that. So it took a lot to leave. I think I achieved so much in such a short space of time that I felt I was sort of losing the buzz a wee bit for it. And then the decision that came to speak to Darvel, it felt when I spoke to John in terms of how I like to work and the structures and foundations I like to put in place, then to be fair to John and the committee there at the time when I'd met them, that I felt that they were willing to put that infrastructure in place, and that's why I decided to give it a go.
Like some of the players you've got as well, like Ross Perry, obviously playing in the Champions League, Darryl Meggett. How impressed have you been with some of the players you've brought in, and like how good is it to have that kind of quality coming into the team?
I think probably bringing Ross and Darryl in last year, obviously, because we're in the Championship, was obviously significant signings for the club. I think what people do forget, though, to be fair, I think most of the squad last season, 13-14, were made up of boys who played amateur the season before.
Yeah.
I had relationships with Darryl and Ross prior to them coming to Darvel, so it made that transition slightly easier, to be honest with you. It was circumstances as well in terms of their personal life and travelling and stuff like that. Sort of a few things fell into place that allowed us to do it. I'm really impressed by them. We lost Ross really early on, hurt his knee against Kilmarnock, the pre-season friendly. Then time he come back, he walked away. So Ross hadn't been there for a large part of last season. But certainly Darryl, his attitude and application, stepping down for League One. Sometimes you would question people's if they get the real desire to come there and try and be part of something you're trying to build. But he's been excellent. As the other boys were brought in for senior this summer, to be fair, it was always a plan in terms of recruitment, in terms of trying to attract a certain kind of quality. We always felt that we had to try and get in the Premier League to allow us to then attract additional players of that quality. So I've been fairly impressed by them. I think you can see why Darryl's played at level he's played it, to be fair.
Brilliant. And obviously, like expectations, you tweeted all day about obviously applying for membership for the SFA is a big thing for you. Like, what are the expectations for you? Like, where do you see yourselves like 2-3 years down the line?
I think that changes all the time, Scott. I think originally we'd sort of put a 3-year plan in place. First year was to get into the Premier Division when it was still the juniors. Second year was about establishing ourselves there, and the third year is about trying to compete at the top end of that. Then all of a sudden the structure changed, and then the pyramid system came in. Then that 3-year plan became a 5-year plan, and it was then about trying to get the club into League Two, or as close to League Two as we can get within a 5-year period. I think that's the ambitions that the club's got, the chairman's got, the committee's got. But listen, the reality is there's a number of other clubs who are a lot more established, experienced and successful at this level themselves who have got the same aspirations. So it's all right having a plan and aspirations, but it's about executing it. It's a totally different thing altogether. But the plan is within the next 5 years is to hopefully get the club into a position where we're either in League Two or we're very close to getting into League Two.
Mm-hmm. I just want to ask you as well, and we'll move on to I'll bring Shankers in this as well. Like when you're like obviously Darvel, you're obviously kind of getting some really good kind of facilities in place and things like that. How do you feel about the criticism that kind of comes about when you try and do something like that? Kind of try and go up the leagues?
No. I suppose I've got a fairly different approach, maybe for what people would probably deem as was in place in junior football before it came. So when you invest in like the changing rooms, GPS vests, and sports science coaches, there's a lot of people who look down on it and say, well, the reality is the most successful clubs at this level don't do that. So what's the real need for it? I think that's just maybe because that's how I'm used to working, I suppose, and it's the sort of infrastructure and environment I like to work with. And I don't particularly mind the criticism. I think as long as we do it in a respectful manner, we conduct ourselves right, then I don't particularly mind. Listen, criticism is going to come. The other thing is as well, I'm not in football to make mates, to be honest with you, Scott. I've got plenty of mates, which might surprise some people. Someone will even think I'm all right, probably, as well. So I think when you're in a competitive environment and you're trying to build success, if everybody likes you and thinks you're a good guy and a great guy, or what you're doing is great, then I think you're doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. There'll always be the people who chastise and criticise me at times, but I don't really mind, to be honest with you. I think I come out and defend the club at times when maybe people say things that are inaccurate or stuff like that, go on social media and defend it. But in terms of personal criticism, I don't particularly mind, to be honest with you.
Brilliant. Shankers, but is there anything you want to ask Mick about?
I'm not asking this for a personal point of view. I'm asking because there's probably people out there that are thinking this. What do you say to them that you're just coming in, chucking all this money, paying players this, that and the next thing? I don't know anything, but there's crazy figures going about and try to buy success. That there is teams that have not done it to this extent, but because they've not put all the things in place that you've done. What do you say to the people that are throwing these figures and all that about? Like what do you say, Ken? Like, as in Scots, you're saying about going for League Two. Is that why you're doing it right now? Try to get it all in place now for that kind of
I think see if you look at who's the top club at level just now, right? I think obviously Auchinleck are the top club in the country by a considerable distance. I think if you look at not just in terms of success, but the infrastructure, how connected are the community, the group of players they've got, the management team. So they're the most successful club, and that's been built over God knows how many generations of success. I think if you're an ambitious club for a standing start, which Darvel are, if you don't invest some kind of money at the outset, the reality is try to do that naturally in a period of time. It just isn't going to happen. It takes investment. Now, people generally don't believe this, but there's a proper business plan in place at Darvel. My year one budget was always agreed. Year two was always, it's all mapped out in terms of what it looks like here the next few years. A lot of that is based on getting additional fans in the door, additional income streams. So it's actually mapped to it. In terms of buying success, I think fundamentally good players cost you money. I think the figures you hear, the figures are astronomical. Listen, football's a very small world. I've spoke to a number of players in a number of months since I took over Darvel, when I was taking over Darvel. Listen, I don't think there's any sort of hidden secret. I spoke to quite down the line with a Talbot player. He's very aware of what we offered them. I don't think the sums are astronomical by any stretch of the imagination. I hear figures are 350, 400 quid a week and 5 grand, 10 grand setting loan fees. I can assure you that just doesn't happen. As I say, the club in terms of playing players' wages, the club stands on its own financial feet. The club income generated through sponsorships, and that's excluding John's sponsorship, and gate receipts and stuff like that covers the playing squad. And as long as John will be there, probably always will. Where John comes in is the investment in infrastructure. And that was building something sustainable. And we sat down in year one and I said that to John, if we're going to do this right, it can't be, which I believe happened at other clubs, where there was shared loads of money spent on the playing squad, trying to catch maybe Auchinleck in a very short space of time, maybe in a good couple of years of success and can't sustain it. I said, if we're going to do this properly, we need to invest in infrastructure of the club. I could have probably taken some of that cost and put it into a playing budget and had better players, but fundamentally, I wanted to build a project that was sustainable and could challenge it a number of years. If you look at the last, 10 years probably, when I've done a bit of research into junior football, maybe a Beef, a Glenafton, I've had really good seasons and won a Scottish Cup and won the league. But fundamentally, in a sustained period of time, no other club has a sustained period of success, which I've been aware of, when I've looked back at it, apart from yourselves. And the reality is, fundamentally, it's because how you run the club. And that's the model, to a degree, you're trying to get to, but that requires some kind of investment in the front end, because us trying to catch Auchinleck with me, or any other club for that matter, Pollock or a Kilwinning, or try to do that on a 30-40 grand budget, the chances are, it ain't just going to happen. Let's not kid ourselves here. But as I say, a lot of it's a load of nonsense, Mark, to be honest with you. But listen, mate, they have a good budget. We've one of the best budgets in the country, I don't deny that. But there is a plan in place in a 5-year period, and that's a proper structured business plan alongside a plan that's set to develop the football club on the park as well.
Mm-hmm. Wilson, is there anything you kind of want to just ask Matt before we move on to your questions?
Oh, you just kind of touched on it there, Mick, about I know you were kind of offered, after your success at Colville Park, I know you could have had a good few moves up the tiers to different teams. But was it the kind of project you fell in love with Darvel with as such? It wasn't just a case of, as you mentioned there, a Beaver Kilwinning, who are kind of right up there in terms of players, etc. with Talbot. Darvel, I'm an Ayrshire boy, Darvel, not so much recently, but over the years I've been a bit of a kind of laughing stock that were in the Ayrshire second division, etc. Nobody really went to watch them as such. So was it the kind of project of building them up? Now I know the restructure kind of took pay to that, but was it the project to try and get them from quite a low level, to, as you say, to get up to the likes of a Talbot, Beef, Buffs kind of level?
I think so, Mark. Listen, all through being part of football, playing and managing, I've managed to have some kind of degree of success. Fortunate enough for me. A lot of that's down to when I played football, I played with really good players, and when I've managed teams, I've managed really good players, because I generally do believe you're only as good as the players you're managing. I think you look at any top coach in the world, any manager at any level, fundamentally they manage the best players at that level, they've got success. So I wanted to make sure I could go into an environment where I could be successful. That was fundamentally the most important thing, that I could build some kind of success, but we could properly invest in infrastructure. When you're sitting down with somebody and they're saying to you, listen, can you get us in the Champion? Can you get us in the Premier Division, the junior football? And I'm saying, of course, well, I'm confident I can, but I need you to spend 50 grand on new changing rooms before we even talk about signing a player.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'd get laughed out the room in most places. Now, I'm not saying that every club needs their changing rooms. Darvel's were particularly bad. Mark's been in them. Well, he's been in the away ones before they've been renovated, which are even worse. But my point to John was, if you're saying you want to be one of the best clubs in the country, then you need to do that in everything you touch. And that means building the right environment for players. And that means things like changing rooms. And listen, they don't guarantee success. There's no absolute doubt about that. I don't think you need to have that kind of environment to have successful football teams. But for me, where we were there, the sort of players we're trying to recruit, we had to do things that put us on a bit of a platform. And also, from a business perspective, from a brand perspective, because at the end of the day, that's what football is. In a very short space of time, I had to get people talking about the club. We had to build some kind of momentum behind us for a standing start. And things like the changing rooms helped us do that. I think when we put them out on Twitter, they were seen by something like, I don't know, I mean, a million people had viewed them at one point. So it got everybody talking about us. It wasn't a significant, important thing in terms of trying to build success, but things like that were important in terms of giving the club a platform. When we sat down with players and you're trying to attract players like Darvel Meggitt for League One, Ian McShane this year for Falkirk and places like that, then I think when you're saying, listen, this is what we're investing in, a series, we're trying to build something that's sustainable, as a project in place, then things like that help. But fundamentally, Mark, the reason I went there is because I felt the club could be successful. I felt John was ambitious enough, and I felt we could get the community behind the club. And I think we've done that. I think that when I first went down and watched a couple of Darvel games, I took up before I was in position. I don't know, crowd were about 50, 60, and I think the club's managed to get them to around about 300, which is great. And I think there's a bit of potential in it to continue to grow those numbers if you can be successful. But that's the reason that I went to Darvel. I didn't expect the criticism that was going to come. It's been interesting.
You've not even been to Beechwood yet.
Any sort of investment, if someone with the capabilities of John and whatever go to Beith or go to the Buffs or go to the Glens, they're going to bite your hand off. It's a jealousy thing that, you get it to even the highest level. Pep Guardiola spent this amount of money and this amount of money. That's what's going to happen. But every single team in the world would do it. They're not going to turn and say, no, we've got a £30 a week wage structure. Absolutely, we don't want your money. Absolutely crazy.
I think as long as it's done sensibly, do you know what I mean? I certainly don't have a blank checkbook. As I say, the budget's a good budget, but it'll be in probably the top 5.
That's why Shankar said he didn't sign for you, because it wasn't. We won't put that out of recording in case Tommy Sloan's listening. We'll not put that out.
He's not got internet in Anbank.
See, the interesting thing is, Matt, I think there's. It's certainly not came for me since I've been to the club anyway, but there's people brought up this kind of rivalry against Auchinleck, and it's interesting because I say this to people all the time, like, rivalries built over a number of years of playing one another and challenging.
Yeah.
Whereas Darvel played Auchinleck in a couple of League Cup sections, there's certainly a rivalry there for me because we've not done anything to be rivals yet, we've not had any success, we've not played them in a period of time. Our challenge for us is simple, it's to be better than the other 15 teams in that league. And that's excluding Auchinleck, because that's fundamentally your first challenge, is to be better than other teams, because you want to win the league, then you need to be better than the teams. Beating Auchinleck in a one-half game in a season isn't going to win your League Cup. So the reason Auchinleck are successful is because they've got sustained success, they're consistently better than every other club, mostly every other season. And our aspiration originally is to try and get better than other clubs, because I think that, and that's also about respect as well, because I don't think you can ignore the success and the size and those other clubs like Beefs and Cowinnans, and the massive clubs, massive experience, massive qualities as well. And fundamentally, we need to get in and compete with those clubs before we even think about getting to a point where they're going to start challenging Auchinleck a sustained period of time, because I think it's just disrespectful. I think it's disrespectful to other clubs, and I think it's also disrespectful to Auchinleck. That doesn't mean we've got aspirations or a desire to try and be the top club in the country. Of course we had. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have it. But I'm certainly respectful that club and other clubs at that level. But as I say, when I go to Beechwood, I'll get absolutely slaughtered. I've no absolute doubt about that.
It happens to everybody.
Don't worry, you'll hear me roaring at Shankers. Nobody will hear anything.
Wilson, we've got time for some quick fire questions. On we go.
Right. Okay. Right, Matt, I hope you answer these honestly. Right.
I promise you I will, Matt.
Peri chicken or a Kelly pie?
Peri chicken every day of the week, Matt.
Kelly or Ayr?
Kelly.
Win the league or win the Scottish?
Win the league.
Favourite Spice Girl?
Victoria Beckham.
John Gall or Fraser Gall?
Oh, John all the way. He pays the wages, didn't he?
As I knew you would say your dad. I knew you would say your dad. I'm right. I'm back. NFL, yes or no?
No.
TV show?
X Factor.
Shankers or Akinfenwa?
Shankers every day of the week.
Favourite other sport?
Squash.
Best Darvel player?
Oh.
That's a hard one, to be fair. Since I've been there, I would say Darryl Meggett.
I would say, I watched his against Hurlford last year at centre half. He could have played with a hat on and stilts. Anyway, fastest Darvel player? Fastest
Darvel player? Jordan Allen's left wing back was signed for Sunrise at Lightning. Big Al McKenzie isn't he slow either. Probably Jordan, I would say Jordan. Mm-hmm.
Worst Darvel player?
Come on.
Worst Darvel
I came
player.
for Shankers, by the way. That was his player.
Worst Darvel player. Xander Cowie.
Put a manager in.
Xander Cowie, my goalkeeping coach. He's the worst. He's in the coaching staff. He's plays in goals and off now and then. So got to be Xander.
Biggest rival?
I think that's a hard one, Mark, because we've not really built, as I say, we've not really built any rivalry up. I think for last year, Blantyre, who had a few good ding-dongs with last year, we'll put a wee bit of rivalry with them, but there's nothing. Maybe Hurlford's a bit of a derby, I suppose, potentially. But I would say that's probably it. I can't really. Until we're in that league and we're competing at week in, week out, then we'll build some kind of rivalry, I would assume, hopefully.
Worst opposition fans pre-Beechwood, right enough, right? That you've ever experienced, you've ever experienced. Worst opposition fans.
The worst amateurs probably Bannockburn. They absolutely love me up there. I mean, adore me. I'm trying to think. I've not found the junior fans that bad, to be fair. Who gave me a bit of stick, to be fair? I think it was I had a bit of stick at Glenafton last year.
It's a different world up there, mate.
They love me. They reminded me at least every 2 minutes I was an amateur manager. Do you know what I mean? I kept stepping outside my dugout area and I was shouting, Kennedy, there's no amateur football now. So I copped it big style at Glenafton, to be fair. It was my window, I suppose, so that sort of helped. But they gave me a fair bit of stick last year. But to be fair, I found all the fact. Actually, I enjoy going to some of the grounds. I was actually really, really honestly looking forward to going to Beechwood this year. I think I went to watch a few of the games last year, and when I took Darvel originally, the surface is excellent. The fans are really passionate. I was actually looking forward to going there. I think it's a great environment to play football, to be fair. So hopefully we'll get an opportunity to get there at some point. Saying that if we don't win the league this year, I'll get a bullet. Auckland will be in it, so I might not get to go.
Last one. Within obviously your budget constraints, as you mentioned, you can sign 3 players for Darvel from the juniors or the pros within budget. Who would your 3 signings be?
That is a great question, by the way.
I know you want him to say you, but come on.
Listen, I'm not bothered. I'll not be offended.
Can you answer that? Does that seem like poaching players as such? You know, can you answer that?
Oh, listen, I think I get a bit of stick for that anyway. It's the 56. So I'm not really worried about that. Who would I take? I think everybody knows the admiration I've got for Jamie Glasgow at Talbot, to be fair. So I think Jamie would certainly be in there. I'm not just saying it because he's on the show. I would take Mark in an instant. And one there. And the third one, it's the third one's a hard one. The other player I've got a lot of admiration for. A couple of boys at Port, Adam Ford and boys Stuart McCann, particularly like them as well. But they're offensive players already. Went for offensive players. I think I would take Craig McCracken. Brilliant. That would be my 3. Mark Shankland, Jamie Glasgow, and Craig McCracken. So you can make that happen, Mark.
What we were doing at Beachwood this year after those revelations.
This is a true story. I don't know if you heard this, Mick, because it was before you were in the juniors. See, a couple of years ago in the Ardagh Cup, we got to the final against Kilburney at Meadow Park, and me and Kieran Milliken were on the bench, and Tucker played Graham Wilson and Craig McCracken up front. That is the lowest moment in my career, by far.
Your lowest.
Did he give you a reason for that, Mark? No,
I honestly don't know. See, it's funny because that was the third week. The week before he played centre mid, and the week before that he played centre half. So he went centre half, centre mid, and then up front. I think he was just trying to squeeze him in the team, just for his aerial presence or whatever. But it was probably one of the lowest points. So I could have chucked it after that.
But I think listen, it's no coincidence. Obviously it's Auckland like players. I think the admiration I think MDO level should have for that group of players is. Listen, I've been part of successful clubs where you've got a group of people who there's a culture set and they buy into it and continuously been hungry every year to win trophy after trophy. Having a year of success is easier anyway, but to date in a number of years with the same group of people to keep continuously going, keep continuously pushing every single year is a remarkable achievement. I think it says more about that group than that put their technical ability or their personal football ability one side, but they have that hunger and desire every year to continuously push yourself to be successful. It's at that level of football when you're not earning life-changing kind of money, but to have that dedication and commitment every year, it's remarkable, to be honest with you. I think that the success the guys have had as a group is truly astonishing.
See when you mentioned earlier, but you won 12 league titles. Was that what you said? Was it 12 leagues or 12 cups or something? Was that at the Drum?
Aye.
That was at Colville. That was it. You're a player at the Drum.
No, I'd won 4 playing with 5 playing with the Drum. Then I was at Colville for a period and won whatever it was, and I won. I think 4 at 4. Is that right? 5? No, so it's probably more than that, to be fair. And then I won 4 as a manager. Aye, but that's what I'm saying. Similar to probably the success that the Auckland Netball you've had to have that desire every year to continually go again and push yourself. But what success does is, that's the thing about success, and it gives you time to build continuity. I'd imagine now the culture set at the club, I'd imagine the boys manage that themselves at times. As a manager, they know the expectations, they know the standards. If you've had a bad game or a bad first half, sometimes you probably don't need to speak to the boys, manage the environment themselves, so they know the expectations, the standards. When you can build something like that, it's special, and the longer you can keep it going together, then that's why they've been so successful. So it's truly remarkable. And I generally, I'm not just saying because Mark's on the show. I think I've said it before. The admiration I've got for that group of players is extremely high. It's astonishing the success they've had.
Brilliant.
Do you have? Sorry, just a cut on. Do you have like an ambition to go and manage, like, say, a senior team? Because say they well for 2 or 3 years with Darvel, and there is that chance, or are you just happy to build what you've got with Darvel and try and get them to that? That's, you can't obviously just say no. Ken, I'll leave Darvel at first chance, but like say in 5 years or whatever, you get Ken Darvel to that position, then something like that does happen. That's just Ken, just a random question, but
it's hard. I think I'm very fortunate, Matt, where football for me has never really been about money. So even just now, I don't take a wage out of Darvel or anything like that. So I'm fortunate enough where I don't have to. So I've always done it and chose to do it because I love it and enjoy it. And I think as long as Darvel were ambitious and we can build something, I really enjoy working with John, to be fair, in the committee there as well. And part of what I try and build is a wee bit of what you've got. It's that sort of family force, that culture of togetherness and all that sort of stuff. So I think if you're going to lead that, I'll certainly sell that sort of vision. Then you need to buy into it. So I would have no plan, but listen, I don't know what the future holds as well. Listen, I think at some point Darvel hit a level where you can't take it any further unless somebody really wants to bankroll it as a business. It'll hit a level where the income it can generate maximum income, and that'll make the club will find its sort of level, whatever that may be. But I don't know. I think I've senior football, I like the culture of senior football in terms of how the day hangs. That's probably how we try and run Darvel off the park and stuff like that. I like that sort of environment of looking after players. But I don't know. I love this level of football, but to be fair, I think there's a real community feeling about it. There's a real connection with the fans. The clubs have got a real connection with the fans and the community. There's something a bit romantic about it, if I'm being honest with you. But you never know. But it's like you, Mark, and I'd imagine you must have opportunities to step back up and stuff like that at times. But it's obviously Auchinleck are such a massive part of your life as well.
When you're getting 400 quid a week, it makes a difference as well.
Of course.
See, just a quick one.
Is that all you get? Is that what you get?
That's how I told you I couldn't take a pay cut to come to you. Let's see if you and John Gall walked away for Darvel tomorrow, the next manager that walks into Darvel gets that budget with that for the players as well.
Aye,
like a 3-year budget or whatever.
Aye, the playing budget 100% itself it generates. Darvel are pretty fortunate, Mark. There's another couple of investors who put money into Darvel. There's one who lives in America, who grew up in Darvel, sold their business for something like £250 million, 240 million, a pharmaceutical company. Strange, mental, this is a mad story, but they grew up in Darvel, moved to America, set up a pharmaceutical company, and it's owned by the third biggest pharmaceutical company in the world now. So they bought it off them. Very wealthy family. So there's a couple who back the club and they give the club donations every year, which contributes to the playing budget. If that money was withdrawn, that would impact the playing budget more than me and John got. But certainly, I don't put any money into paying players' wages or anything like that. The only thing I pay for at Darvel is I pay for the GPS vest because I asked for them. It was with the budget we'd set, and I wanted to put that in place. I pay for that myself. But no, certainly, if John walked away on Monday and the right people come in to run the club or the committee stayed there, the club will always have a healthy budget now. Now, where John has really invested his infrastructure, that would never have happened without John putting the money in he's put in. To be honest with you, for the licence and all that sort of stuff. But they would still have a really healthy playing budget.
We've just got time for a couple of fan questions. Stephen Nicholas, Mac, which of the junior grounds is your favourite to go to?
Junior games?
Yeah, junior grounds.
Favourite grounds? I think it would be the clubs I've been to. It would be Beechwood or Pollock. I don't know if it's because of volume of people who come to the games when you go and watch the games.
I love playing at Pollock.
It's a special. There's something a wee bit romantic about Pollock as well. Not because I'm a Glasgow boy or no, but there's something romantic about that club as well. I don't know. As I say, it might just be the volume of people are there, but I don't know. It feels a special ground to play football, as does Beechwood. But they two clubs probably are the two grounds that I would probably enjoy going to the most.
Andy McMath asks as well. You've already answered this, but he can get into a bit of detail. How far do you genuinely think Darvel can go in the football pyramid? I understand everyone says aim for the top, but with some other good sides around, with fan base, etc., it's going to be tough to get there. What's your kind of response to that?
I think your clubs could comfortably sit in League Two. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Definitely, I think Auchinlecks, Cowarrans, Pollocks, ourselves, if you can put us into that category, I think we could get to League Two and comfortable. I think the other thing people don't recognise as well. So if you take ourselves up, let's just look at Auchinleck in terms of the number of people come through the door, the money they generate, blah blah blah. You go into League Two, you're guaranteed about 100 grand in prize money straight away before you kick a ball. Round about that sort of income. So you add that to a club that's already got a fan base of 500-600 people, is getting real community backing, then the budget within the club changes overnight. So I think you could comfortably sit at League Two. Comfortably, I think there's probably a couple could maybe get to League One. But you also need to change the models. Clubs need to evolve, and need to be changed within the infrastructure, how you run the club. Wage structures would need to change and stuff like that to allow you to continue to compete and push up. So it's all these sort of things. But I think clubs would get to League Two comfortably.
Brilliant. Wilson, anything else to add?
No, it's been quite an interesting insight that Mick will take me on. If I have a successful year with Sturton next year, I'll be straight up Darvel, replacing him when he goes higher. It's fine.
Brilliant.
No, it's been a good insight to hear, because again, the social media can be the best thing in the world, it's the worst thing in the world. And we kind of touched on about folks saying he gets this a week, he gets that a week, and there is a wee bit of vitriol, well, there has been towards Darvel and Mick himself. You know, it's good to hear, you know, the truth. These things can give you a wee better understanding, you know.
Definitely, brilliant. It's been an absolute pleasure to be on, Mick. I can't thank you enough for joining us. We just get time for a couple of fan questions. First of all, to Wilson, did you have an easier day yesterday than Barkas?
Well, to be honest, he had one shot to save and couldn't save it. So probably it's, as I say, and he has come in for criticism, not just from me, but again, it was kind of highlighted, you know, last night. Now, again, I know the goalkeeper sort of, I don't know if Mick does that, but I always let, and I know it's a different level, but you let your goalkeeper sort out what he wants, and I'm still amazed that we a goalkeeper that is kind of best thing is coming out and collecting the ball. You know, how he doesn't have two guys on his posts. I just don't get that at any level. You know, it's you know, a short corner, for example, you know, you maybe move the guy from the back post to the front post or whatever. But two guys on the post, there's a guy in the post, you know, it's not a goal, but it was just another calamity yesterday. Not he wasn't to blame for the goal, but it is what it is.
Brilliant. Well, that'll do us for this week. I just want to thank Wilson and Shankers for joining me again. And Mick, it was an absolute pleasure to be on the show. Thanks very much for that.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks. And we'll be back next week with a further look at what has happened over the weekend in Scottish football. Thanks very much for joining us again, and we will see you next week. Cheers.